Hi guys, I'm Sam from the Unity of Life and welcome back to my channel. So if you've been keeping up with some of these videos, you'll be aware now that I've actually started going through some of the more animal related videos. Okay, so what we've really been focusing on at the moment is what animals do to help us. And what we do to them. So the first video I did was a little bit of one on what engineering things animals have inspired. The second video I did was a little bit of a rant and a rave because it was threats that we do to animals, that we cause to animals, and them going into extinction. So today we're looking at the secrets behind animals in human societies. I am aware that the last two videos that I did were pretty long, so if you sat and watched through all of them, I thank you very much. I know it can't have been easy or that entertaining listening to me witter on for 40 to 30 minutes long. So without further ado, let's get started. So, have you ever wondered what it is that animals go through to fit into our society as we see fit? So I'm talking about animals that are mainly domesticated, but we are going to be talking about a few animals that aren't quite domesticated. So in this article, we're going to explore and look at the differences that animals and their roles in this society. So we're looking at different animals and their roles. So we look at the welfare issues, those big or small companies, including the farming industry. Okay, it's the things that they try to hide from us. So businesses want to maximize their profits, but at what cost to the animals? Okay, so if you're anything like me and you love animals, anything that you use product wise, so I have I use a lot of skin products for my skin because I've got acne. I don't know if you can tell, but these skin products that I use are from Facebury and they are vegan and cruelty free, so that means there is no animal products in their products, and they don't test anything on animals. It's all plant based and it's all natural ingredients which goes in them, and it makes your skin feel really lovely. Not that this is a sponsored video, I'm just putting that out there. So animal welfare appears not to be a concern for some companies. Okay, that's not for everything. And yet they want to avoid costs through fines and going to court. So greed overrules this legislation. They want all this money and they don't really give a crap of how they're going to get this money and who's involved, who they're going to hurt. So the legislation is an animals protection, and we are going to do some videos later on talking about different animal related laws. Okay, so for the bare basic requirements for animals is in the animal welfare law, which we are going to cover and we're going to talk about and discuss in more detail later on in a different video. So let's start off with talking about the commercial use of animals. Okay, so animals in agriculture are bred for food or produce, and the older that I get, the more I've learnt about this and the more that this farm industry and where we get meat from doesn't sit so well with me anymore. I don't like it at all. It's absolutely horrendous what some animals go through in order for us to eat them, which is even the thought. I mean, I can't even walk past meat in the supermarket anymore without feeling a bit sick. So we're talking things like, so obviously, from cows you get like beef, you get your milk. From pigs you get pork, bacon and gammon. From sheep you get lamb and mutton. And hens is obviously chicken and eggs. So when the animal is no longer producing milk or eggs, for example, what then happens to it? Well, it's a simple cost effectiveness just to kill the animal outright. And are these animals suffering throughout their lives? So not only are they suffering when they get killed, because we don't know the process, and I mean, I have read and heard some horror stories from an abattoir that really does put you off for life. But when they're kept in this farm, what conditions are they living in? Are they living a happy, healthy life? Because obviously we hear about this free range thing. So what does this free range mean compared to animals that aren't free range? So some animals' living conditions may be pure due to close confinement. Infections and diseases and possible poor diet due to cost savings. So if anybody watches Emmerdale, will know that Nate is a farmer, and he cut the cost with some food for his turkeys that caused the turkeys to have a really upset stomach, and there was diseases, and he might have had to cull them if it was a particular disease, and luckily it wasn't, but then he had to go back to the more expensive food. So vet costs will be minimised, and animals may be suffering through this neglect because they're not wanting to pay out for a vet, and that's pets as well, that can happen. So battery hens, this is not something that people talk about or hear about anymore, but it does still go on. So these battery hens are basically, their sole purpose in life is to lay eggs. That is it. And they're a prime example of poor living conditions and conditions of living and even dying. And the welfare needs of these hens, these are packed, so you've got like hundreds of chickens in a tiny little cage, right? They're just all packed, crammed in, close together, and they've got really no more room to move, and that makes it easy for diseases to spread, like we know with the coronavirus. And it's hard to see any suffering, or if they're ever actually dead, because there's that many in a small tight cage, and they are fed so much that their legs eventually snap under their weight because they're so fat. So male chicks are usually gassed and sold as pet food, okay? And I found out I'm actually allergic to that gas, because I shouldn't laugh, but at college we had a load of snakes, so they were fed on chicks and rats, and we had frozen chicks that we had to separate, and their necks would snap and everything. It was horrible, but we had to separate them for the snakes to eat, and that's how I found out I'm allergic to the gas. This isn't okay, so the being gassed isn't as bad as it might be in the wild if they got killed by another animal, because at least it's quick, it happens with no suffering. Where an animal in the wild eats them, there's a chance that there's going to be a lot of pain. I mean, getting ripped from limb to limb, whatever, can't be very good. Right, so have you ever wondered how manufacturers know that medications or cosmetics are safe for human use? Industries do not want to believe that they test drugs, cosmetics on animals. It's very important to look for that cruelty thing, and if they're not advertising that something's cruelty free or not, then I just wouldn't use it. A good thing to use to see if something's cruelty free or not is the Petra site. As much as Petra is a pain in the bum, and they've got the right ideas, that their heart is in the right place. However, the way that they go around things is not the best. So their propaganda tools that they use, and their adverts, which I won't go into in case there's young children watching, and the Animal Crossing protests that they did was ridiculous. Free the fish, the video non-existent fake fish, and they threatened an owl during the day to free this fish. There's a lot of YouTube videos on that, so if you want to know more about it, you would check some videos out on that. But their website is really good to see if anything is animals. They don't test on animals because they have a list, and it's all Petra approved and whatever. So a lot of companies do test on animals before they test on humans, and it is horrific. I studied ethics at GCSE, and we looked at animal testing, and you saw the effects that it had on animals, and it is absolutely horrendous. They've got like all these horrible crusty skin conditions, and you can tell that the animal is clearly suffering, and it's horrendous. Okay, so hundreds of animals like rats and mice are tested on every year. They're kept in cramped, unclean cages that are just harmful experiments done on them. This is simply to check that they are safe for humans. Why? Animals have different genetic codes to us. Because of the drugs in the cosmetics are safe for one animal, it doesn't mean that it's safe for us. Numerous drugs safe for animals have seriously harmed humans or killed them. Suffering endured was in vain. So our genetic makeup is meant to be very similar to a mouse and to a rat. And I know in university we were doing rat dissection, me thinking they died of natural causes, tumours and whatever, which would have been quite interesting to look at. That wasn't the case. The lecturer came in and had a big rant and rave because people hadn't showed up for the dissection, because they kill, and I quote, they kill as many rats as the students tell them. Yeah, let that sink in for a little bit. She was saying that those rats had been killed that day for the purpose of students to cut them up. I personally was absolutely mortified, and was so absolutely disgusted that she said that. However, I was in my first year of university, so what the hell was I meant to do? Because it's not like I could have just walked out of there and started a protest, which I probably fucking should have now. So just be aware that things like that do happen, okay? They still happen. And I was doing an animal behaviour course, so everybody loves animals, so that was just a horrible statement to be making for a room full of people who love animals. Okay. So we have things, so the World Trading Age is like, it's huge. It's not things that just happen in labs like Botox and your cosmetics being tested, okay? There is a huge demand for things like rhino horn and elephant tusk, and that is why we see animals being poached, and it's just disgusting. So the South African government confirmed that 1,175 rhinos were lost in the country in 2015. And that was slightly down from 2014. Right? Which is ridiculous because I think it's the northern white rhino. Could be wrong. I get mixed up with the northern and the southern white rhino, but one of them has gone extinct. Pretty much. There's two living, and their mother and daughter. So it's not looking good for them. A rhino's horn is cut off for keratin. Things that you find in your nails and your hair. But a rhino's horn, unlike your nails and your hair, does not grow back, and it's left. And the rhino, once the horn's been cut off, it's left to bleed out. It's left to die a very horrible, slowly painful death. And it's either due to blood loss or because it's too weak to get up and it dehydrates in the hot climate. And that is just resulting in absolutely disgusting, and it has to stop. We have to think about these things, okay? So the roles of work in animals. So this is going to tie in with our next video, which we're going to do on training, okay? So let's go through this. There's not much to complain about here, but hey. So for some time now, we've bred animals to help us. If we haven't bred them, then we've trained them. One of the most common examples of this is dogs. I bet most of you watching here have got a dog. So there's hundreds of charities that train dogs to help people with disabilities, like canine partners. Okay, so I actually helped train a canine partner. His name is Vinnie, and he's a Labrador Retriever. When I'm around, I'm not kidding you, he's my massive golden shadow. He's very, very lovely. He's the second canine partner that our family friends had. The first one she had was a pure golden retriever called Quizzy, who was a girl, and our friend, she suffers from, I might be pronouncing this right, but Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is just shortened to EDS, and basically all that means is that her joints dislocate easily. Like, you and me, we bend down to pick up a pen, and her shoulder will be out just from bending down and doing that. Or she'll trip and she'll take a hip out, or she'll do something and something will come out, something that me and you do normal. So what I did to help train Vinnie, which we're going to go into much more detail in the next video because that's what it's about, I trained him to do things so he can put her joints back in, he can do the washing, he can get things out of the fridge for her, he can go upstairs when she's downstairs, fetch her slippers, he can bring her the house phone, he can tidy up after himself and bring you these little toy basket, he can even open and close doors, and he can put on lights. Okay, so other working animals around the world include monkeys and elephants, sadly. So monkeys are used to collect ripe coconuts from the tops of trees, and elephants unfortunately carry tourists, which again, that has to stop if you're going off of to places like India. Please don't be going off on an elephant ride. Yeah, it's something that you don't do all the time, however, it is, the animal is working long shifts, carrying lazy people all day long, and it's just horrendous. Can you imagine if you had to carry lazy people every single day for like 12 hours straight? You're not gonna like it, and neither do they. And it's the same thing for horses as well, that pull carriages in big cities. So the welfare issues associated with these animals may be poor, as many of the countries are LEDCs, so that's a less economically developed country, and the care for the animals is a low priority, as in veterinary care. It's purely because the government doesn't care about its own people, its citizens that live in that country, so why should they care about any animals? A working animal that most people forget about are actually dogs in the British Army. They've got patrol dogs and they've got explosive dogs. And these are especially well looked after by their handlers and the soldiers, because it helps them be grounded, and because there's horrible things going on there, and it helps them to fight and to live another day. So they look after to a very high standard. The dog's natural skills are utilised, and the welfare is paramount. They have vets in the army, in case you weren't aware. So handlers and soldiers will happily give up their food and water for these dogs. That's how well looked after these dogs are and how much they care for them. So the army has many different dogs trained to do many different tasks, like I said, to find bombs and explosives, and to find people that maybe shouldn't be there. The Royal Army Veterinary Corps provides a first-class veterinary service. So the welfare issues, working in extreme climates, killed in the course of their work, which unfortunately is the same for humans, and PTSD. Yep, you heard me. Dogs can suffer from PTSD just like humans, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, for those who do not know. An army dog in America was recently diagnosed with PTSD. And this is down to many incidents that they attended to whilst they were in service. However, the dog's natural instincts have saved many soldiers and civilians' lives. So we have to be grateful, because they can smell and hear things that we ourselves cannot. So it's why it's so sad that we mistreat a lot of animals. So the next thing we are on about is the media. Boo! Not all media is bad, but some need to take care of a little bit more. So we all love films with animals in. Who doesn't love a film with a cute little monkey in it, or a tiger cub? You see many. Like Dr. Dolittle was full of animals. I'm talking about the one in the 90s and the early 2000s, not the one with Robert Downey Jr. in it, because I'm assuming that they were all CGI'd, those animals, but back in the 90s and early 90s that wasn't the case. Filmmakers say that no animals were harmed during the productions, but we only have their word on that. Maybe animals are taken away from their mothers, cramped into small cases and beaten to perform on cue. The bright lights on set and the screaming directors may startle the animals can cause them mental harm. This isn't to say this is all film industries. A lot of film industries now are a bit better at this, and we CGI animals, and if we have dogs in there, the dogs are very well looked after and very well trained. So when they are no longer needed, they are forced to live out the rest of their lives in small unclean cages, or they are killed unless actors adopt them. Game of Thrones is a perfect example of that with their dogs that they used for the wolves. The actress who plays Sansa, she actually adopted one of them because they no longer needed it and they were just going to euthanize her. So well done, Sophie, for stepping in and taking on that dog. When they are no longer needed, they're forced. Yeah, I've said that. Oh my god. These animals are deprived of the chance to live their lives like they would in the wild because they were taken at such a small young age, and they don't know anything else but humans, and that's not good. They need to be scared of humans and run away. So don't you just love the circus? Now this does not happen in this country anymore. So. And all the dangerous acts. What about the animals that they make perform? They're stamping down a lot on this, okay? So, not that long ago, but anyway, these animals are out of the wild and they're still young and their parents may have been killed. These animals are then forced to live and travel in really small, cramped places. But like I said, these performing animals are these very dangerous animals. It's against the law. They're stomping down, stopping this, okay? Sports and leisure, something we typically seem to forget. Okay, a lot of people learn to ride when they are young, but at what cost? So I learned to ride a horse when I was like in my teen years, and I've only really brought it back up. So the horses may work long hours. The horses that I ride do not work long hours, because he's not part of a school. He's someone's horse, and they allow us to ride him and teach us how to do things with them. So treated for inexperienced riders, living conditions may be poor at riding school. That somebody in my family used to use. They don't use them now. There was no stables. It was a really muddy field, and a lot of them were horrible and got like mud fever. And one horse has caught pasteurdermitis, it's just mud fever, an infection from the mud, and it's caused no dry places to stay and familiarised and failure to clean and dry the legs, because I live in West Cumbria, so if anybody knows that, the climate is quite similar to Scotland because we're quite close to Scotland, so it rains more than it's sunny. I think it's like 3 months of the year it doesn't rain, and we call that summer. Woo! I'm saying that it does still rain during the summer. So what about dressage and show jumping and all this racing? It puts a lot of strain on this horse's legs, because horses run around in the wild and they will jump over things, but not as much as what they would do when they're made to do by humans, which is all for sure. Well, again, the horse will have to train for long hours because you have to train them to do these things, which is a shame, as dressage resembles. Okay, you might not know this is an interesting fact actually, but which is a shame, as dressage resembles what a stallion does naturally to impress the mares. So it's not actually a natural thing for mares to do. So symbols. Animals for thousands of years have been used as symbols. So like in the Hindu religion and in the Native Americans, they have a lot of animals in their symbols. In Egypt, cats were gods. Cats were worshipped. In India and Hindu, it's cows. They think cows as gods. And like I said, Native Americans, they used a lot of totems with wolves and eagles and bears. So yeah, and they look after these animals. In fact, in places like in Nepal, the cows are treated like gods, similar to those in India. There's little waste from the cows in Nepal. Milk produced is sold. Feces produces gas for fuel. And urine is used as a pesticide. And a ritual to thank the cows for what they supply. That's what they do. They do these little rituals. And when a cow retires to a care home. How sweet is that? And they live out the rest of the days until they die in this like little care home with all these other little cows. And when they die, they're given a sky burial, which is just fantastic and it's really sweet. And we need to do more of this. So in conclusion, animals, they appear to be better off in the wild than in their natural habitat. However, we're destroying their natural habitat, which means a lot of animals being out is not good. I read something on Facebook that 2 red wolves, which were very endangered, had been released into the wild, only to have been released die. They were only 2 years old and they got hit by a car and they died. So that's taking out that genetic pool. So we have, that loss of life. It is terrible. So we need to really not have much human interference where we can. If we're helping to actually breed animals and put them back into the wild, that is absolutely fine. But if we're just breeding animals for the purpose of exhibiting them or even trophy hunting, then we really should be leaving them alone. As for working animals, we use their natural behaviours and their instincts, and they need to be looked after because we do need them. We do rely an awful lot on these animals. The pet industry appears to breed animals and ignore their natural instincts. Family pets are often loved too much and overfed. Obesity is a really big issue. We are going to be talking about some issues in later videos to do with your beloved pets. And if we breed them to work, that they still have to use these natural instincts. The military are recognised for the medical advances for humans and now animals, which is brilliant. So what is clear is that in some LEDCs, they respect their animals much more better than MEDCs, which is MDC is most economically developed countries, so like the US and the UK and France and Spain, as they rely on their animals for their income. They don't always treat them bad. You will see, because you will see Save the Donkey adverts all the time, and they're in LEDCs, and they're not treated very well. But some are, where they're more so when they're worshipped as gods, like the little cows in Nepal. So, foreseeable studies into such collecting human hair could save rhinos suffering and being extinct from greed because it's the same material. Inspections and enforcement of animal care need to improve. We're going to go through that in a later video. Registrations for animal protection and welfare requires men to be looked and stamped out abuse and ill treatment of animals worldwide. Like I said, we're going to get into some of the law in later videos, okay? So that's all I have today. So just be mindful, taking what I said. I know, again, it's been a little bit of a long video. However, remember, we have to respect animals. We've got a lot to be thankful for. And we also need to start respecting ourselves as well, okay? Change starts with you. Please remember that nothing in this world is going to change unless you change. And if you change your ways, you can then help other people change, and you can help the world. And that's what we're trying to do here with the Unity of Life. We're going to try and help you support with your change and our change, and we're going to try and make the world a better place together. Because remember, we can ignore the voice of one, but we can't ignore the voice of many, okay? You can break one person, but if we all stand together, we're going to be even harder to break. So please remember to stand up for your beliefs and the treatment of people and of animals. If you see something that's wrong, do something about it, okay? So I'm going to see you in the next video. Please don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe. You can subscribe down here, and the next video will be up here somewhere, and our playlists will also be down here for this series. So don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.